Next, we will have House File 1723, Representative Freiberg. Representative Freiberg, would you like to move your bill, House File 1723, be re-referred to the Elections Committee?
Sure, I will move that House File 1723 be re-referred to the Elections Committee.
Thank you. And with that, the bill is before us. Please discuss your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill contains several provisions that are in the governor's budget. I'll just summarize them briefly. Section 1 removes the requirement that Federal Help America Vote Act, or HAVA funds, have to get appropriated by the legislature. These critical funds are used to enhance election technology and make election security improvements. But over the past few years, unfortunately, the funds have been used as leverage in legislative negotiations unrelated to election security. I just believe strongly that we should trust our election administrators to use the funds prudently, and we're unique among states, not in a good way, in having this requirement for legislative appropriation. Section 2 is a one-time request, and this is probably the most germane to this committee, for approximately $477,000 for the payment of court-ordered attorney's fees as a result of the Minnesota Special Redistricting Panel's resolution of redistricting matters. Under federal law, plaintiffs are entitled to seek reimbursement for attorney fees and costs associated with redistricting litigation. The court has granted reimbursement. There is incentive to pass this and pay it sooner as interest is accruing, and passing it sooner will actually save money. And Representative Nash, I know you have worked on this as well. And thank you for your work. I've been meaning to sign on as a co-author to your bill, in fact, House File 1418, that contains this provision, although it doesn't have the other two provisions. Section 3 is a one-time amount of $461,000 to meet the state matching requirements that will allow the Office of Secretary of State to utilize over $2 million in federal HAVA funds to secure and improve Minnesota's election systems. That's just a quick walk through of the bill. I believe the Secretary of State is here to testify also.
Thank you so much. Secretary of State Simon, if you'd like to come forward. Please state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Steve Simon, Minnesota Secretary of State. It's an honor to be here before you. I want to thank Representative Freiberg for carrying this bill. I think he effectively set the stage. I know you're pressed for time, so I'm just going to limit my remarks to Section 1 of the bill because it is an interesting policy issue, I think, for consideration of this committee. That first part of the bill pertains to federal funds under the Help America Vote Act, or HAVA. Since its passage in 2002, Congress has periodically appropriated money to secretaries of state for various elections purposes, and in recent years, Congress has appropriated the money for election security purposes. But Congress has wanted states, excuse me, to have some skin in the game, and so it's usually required a state match of anywhere from 5 to 20%, sometime within 2 years of the appropriation. The problem here is that Minnesota has a law on the books, we think that we're unique among all 50 states, that allows the legislature to basically intercept the HAVA money and sit on it. So Congress appropriates the money to the Office of Secretary of State, all offices of Secretary of State across the country, and the legislature can basically shortstop it, can basically stand in the way. And that law really has been abused. The most blatant example came in 2018. Congress appropriated money to all secretaries of state for election security purposes, and that money was meant mostly to help states beat back would-be hackers in the 2018 election. But the Minnesota Senate, not the House, the Senate, blocked those funds for reasons that no one even today can articulate with a straight face. As a result, we were the last state in America to get those HAVA funds, and they were finally appropriated in 2019, more than a year after they were granted by the federal government, and after the 2018 election for which the funds were intended. So the law really doesn't make sense. And don't get me wrong, members, I believe in oversight, even when I and we are the subject of it. That's appropriate, that's necessary, that is healthy when you perform an oversight function. But the federal government already limits how these security funds can be spent. It requires that our office file a spending plan and submit quarterly financial reports. They're subject to federal audit. Plus, you and the legislature always have a sword hanging over us anyway, which is you can refuse to appropriate the matching funds. So it's not as if you're not without tools. You are, and that's appropriate. So if a future Secretary of State does something with these funds or says that she or he will do something with the funds that you believe are inappropriate, you can withhold those matching funds. And I think that's appropriate. You have the power of the purse. So I wouldn't want to take that away from you. But this particular law does need changing. And I want to single out for thanks Representative Nash, the lead on this committee, who's been a great ally on this issue. He said at a previous hearing that he thought we agreed on 10% of issues. I think that's a little stingy. It's more like 20%. But this is among the 20% of issues that I think we agree on, which is when it comes to cybersecurity, which really is national security, we can't play around here. Legislative oversight is necessary and helpful and critical, but this is different than that. You still have the oversight. You just can't shortstop and hold on to the funds. So I want to thank Representative Freiberg for his leadership and thank the committee members for their consideration. Thanks.
Thank you, Secretary of State Simon. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to testify? Mr. Heller.
Mr. Simon would say there's a throw.
He'll be listening.
Welcome to the committee, Mr. Heller. If you'll state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Thank you, Committee on State and Local Government Policy. Ms. Rick Keller here, testifying on March 14th on this 1723 bill. I'm a white male with braided beard with a camouflage hat on. Regarding this, Steve Simon is here. Glad of that. Got a communication last week from B.B. Black, their attorney. I've been pursuing accessibility at the voting polls since 2016. I believe Representative Freiberg got the correspondence yesterday with Representative Green. I only have one specific question for Mr. Simon, if he's willing to yield to the question through the chair, and it was this question. Does this current bill free up money for webpage accessibility at the Secretary of State? Through the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Heller. We can ask Secretary of State Simon to come forward and answer the question. Secretary of State Simon, did you hear the question, or do you need me to repeat it?
Madam Chair, could you repeat it?
My understanding of the question from Mr. Heller is, does this bill free up money for you to use for accessibility in elections? Is that correct, Mr. Heller?
Yeah, Chair, it has to do with the web page accessibility. The other piece of this has to do with accessibility of the voting polls.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heller. Clarification of web page and voting polls.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve Simon, Secretary of State. Yes, the answer to Mr. Heller's questions is yes, on both fronts. Accessibility is explicitly one of the items that Congress has said this money can and should be used for.
Thank you very much. Mr. Heller.
It's my understanding B.B. Black didn't express what bill it was. That's why I had to ask. And if about 2 years ago I brought this up in a late evening joint meeting with Ms. Kiffmeyer in Government Operations and Mr. Nelson. And at that point, they didn't think Section 508 and Web Content Accessibility Guidelines does not apply. But when I look at the summary, it doesn't say there are any changes in the law. So it's in a way it's misleading, because if it does provide, they need to correct the summary, because it is correct that now they can use HAVA money and state dollars for applying to the web page accessibility and at the voting polls. And I would just like to hear a yes from Mr. Simon, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Heller, and I appreciate your bringing this important issue to the committee. Thank you, and thank you, Secretary of State Simon. Is there any further discussion of the bill? Seeing none from the public, I will move it to members. Members, Representative, let's see, Nadeau, you're first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative. And I'm not sure if this is a question for you, or if the Secretary wants to come back. So my and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it appears to me that the money can be drawn down from the federal government and spent without, if we strike 1.7 and 1.8 in the bill, the money can be drawn down and spent, and then the secretary would have to come back and ask the legislature for that matching appropriation. Would that put us in a bind if we decided that we didn't, if the legislature didn't want to make that appropriation for whatever reason? Would that put the Secretary of State's office in a bind?
Representative Freiberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Nadeau. I think the answer is yes, but maybe it might be better for the Secretary of State to come down and talk about how things would function if that were to happen.
Right, we have Ms. Freeman coming to the testifying table. If you would please state your name for the record and then answer the question. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Nicole Freeman, Office of the Secretary of State. Thank you, Representative Nadeau. So what would happen, what the HAVA, initial HAVA legislation dictates is if a state match is not obtained within the time frame given, then those funds would need to be returned to the federal government.
Thank you. A further
Thank you.
question?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you. And I mean, Representative Freiberg, I support your bill. I mean, I think this is an important thing. I just want to make sure that we don't get into a bind, and if this is the best way, if there's maybe there's something else we need to do later on, but I support your bill at this point. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Bonner.
Thank you. You know, again, this is, I think, one of those areas where, in fact, actually, particularly our IT folks, including Lead Nash, we do have actually a lot of commonality here. You know, the Help America Vote Act funds originally came to us because we had folks trying to interfere in our election infrastructure. And fortunately, they failed, but that is why these funds originally came to us. And, you know, cybersecurity is really on par with national security when it comes to our state. And no one at any point, in my opinion, should be standing in the way of making sure that we secure our cybersecurity infrastructure here in the state. This is a core function of what government is meant to do, and that includes the legislature. We also know that these funds in particular have specific parameters around oversight, what the funds can be used for, who can use them. There are audit trails around these funds and things to protect government to make sure that they are being used for the exact purposes in which they were intended. And so for that reason, I am highly supportive of the bill, and I appreciate this bill coming forward because, again, cybersecurity is just too important for us to muck around with.
Thank you, Representative Bonner. Lead Nash.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the author, thanks for the bill. I do agree with a good portion of the bill, and while it is pretty clear that the Senate can be a capricious and mysterious place, and I believe that they make the greatest argument that can be made for a unicameral, I don't necessarily mind the oversight piece. I actually enjoy the oversight piece. I think that if we are ultimately to be to Representative Nadeau's question, if we're going to have to get involved in what could be potentially a deficiency down the road, then it wouldn't be the most unwise thing for us to have had oversight in the disbursement of the funds to start off with. Again, I agree with a huge portion of this, but I don't know that taking the legislature off the hook from the oversight piece is where we want to be. I've never found it particularly onerous, and you and I have served on the Elections Committee, and the Secretary just did talk about that. I've never tried to play games with the funds, and I just think that, once again, if we can try to be a better fiduciary of these funds without playing reindeer games with holding things up, that we are in a much better place. So I don't support that part of it, but I do support the effort that is trying to go on here. So thank you.
Thank you, Lead Nash. Representative Freiberg, would you like to close up your bill?
Sure. Just since the discussion seemed to focus mainly on the legislative authorization part, I just wanted to comment that, once again, we are unique among states in this requirement, and experience shows it hasn't worked very well. I do think that the point that Representative Nadeau made is a valid one, that there's the potential to be in a bind, but 49 other states don't have this provision in place, and I haven't heard of lots of problems as a result of that. So I think this is a common sense change. I think the funding is extremely important. That's included in this bill, so I would encourage members to vote yes, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, and I will just say, just a reminder to the public that it was not the House Republicans or Democrats who played games with the HAVA funds. So we have been good stewards of that program. And with that, would you like to renew your motion that House File 1723 be re-referred to the Elections Committee?
Yes, I will renew that motion.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Hearing two, the motion prevails, and the bill, House File 1723, is re-referred to the Elections Committee. Thank you. Members, I have received a note that we need to change the location of House File 1723. I mistakenly made the motion that it go back to elections. If we could please re-refer House File 1723 to Ways and Means. Representative Freiberg, if you would speak to the change.
I see Matt Gehring twitching a little bit. I think maybe the motion would be to reconsider the motion to send it to elections first,
Are we
and then we would make a motion to re-refer it to Ways and Means.
let us do this. Let us ask Mr. Gehring to state the motion for the record. If you are, advise the chair to state.
Madam Chair, Representative Freiberg is correct. So you've already voted on the motion to refer the bill out to a different committee. So
Okay.
At this point, you would make a motion to reconsider the motion that sent the bill to the Elections Committee, and then you'd vote on that first. And then next, you would take a motion to instead refer the bill to Ways and Means.
I love that we have excellent, nonpartisan House staff, legal staff to help keep the chair on task. So if we could please reconsider the motion that House File 1723 be re-referred to elections.
Madam Chair, I
Lead
believe that
Nash.
you actually have to make a proper motion, so that would appropriately come from Representative Freiberg, because I don't want to have it jammed up for lack of actually moving to reconsider.
All right?
Thank you, Representative Nash. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will move to reconsider the motion that House File 1723 be re-referred to the Elections Committee.
All those in favor of reconsidering the motion, please say aye. Aye. All of those, now we need to make the motion, the new motion.
Yep. I will move that House File 1723 be re-referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Any discussion to the motion? Mr. Gehring, is it correct?
Madam Chair, maybe just for the record, just indicate that the first motion prevailed.
Thank you very much. The motion to reconsider House File 1723, having had vote, the motion prevails. The motion is adopted. House File 1723 is now before the State Government Committee. Is that correct, Mr. Gehring? Thank you.
Now I will make the motion to re-refer House File 1723 to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Thank you. Is there any discussion to the new motion that House File 1723 be re-referred to Ways and Means? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion that House File 1723 be re-referred to Ways and Means, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing one, the motion prevails and House File 1723 is re-referred to Ways and Means.